The communication system on the HMCS Aurora started screaming at 3 in the morning. Lieutenant was sitting in the dark, drinking cold coffee and watching the stars pass by the viewport. He had been awake for 17 hours straight, running system checks on equipment that probably did not need checking. The Aurora was an old ship, converted from a cargo hauler 10 years ago, and it made sounds that newer vessels did not make. Groans, squeaks, the occasional bang that made the crew jump. When the alarm went off, thought something had broken again. He moved fast to the communication station and pulled up the signal. What he saw made him forget about his cold coffee. The signal was coming from deep in space, near the outer edge of their territory. It was not in any human language. It was not in any language had ever heard before, but he recognized the pattern immediately. He had trained for this exact moment, even though he never really expected it to happen. Someone was dying. Grabbed his communication device. He ran down the corridor toward Captain Lisa's quarters. The Aurora was moving through empty space, far from any human outpost. The nearest backup was 3 weeks away. The captain was sleeping, but she was awake by the time knocked on her door. Was a woman who could wake up fast. She was already pulling on her uniform when burst in. She was 45 years old, with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had served on 4 different ships, and she had never turned away from a problem. It was one of the things that made her a good captain. Explained the signal as they walked toward the bridge. Listened and said nothing. When they reached the command center, she sat in her chair and looked at the data on the main screen. The signal was weak. It was also desperate. Whoever was sending it was scared. Could hear it in the pattern of the transmission, even though she could not understand a single word. "Can you trace it?" she asked. "Yes," said. "It is coming from a military station, about 5 hours away at full speed. The signal strength says they are in bad trouble." Nodded. She thought about all the rules she knew. Protocol said that humans should not get involved in alien conflicts. Humans had only been in space for 300 years. They had been here for thousands. Getting in the middle of their wars was asking to be destroyed. But had not become a captain by following rules that did not make sense. "Full speed," she ordered, "and get Colonel down here now." The ship shook as the engines pushed to maximum. Alarm bells rang throughout the vessel as crew members moved to battle stations. Some of them were scared. Some of them were excited. All of them knew that something important was happening. Colonel Henry arrived on the bridge 15 minutes later. Was 62 years old, with a gray beard and hands that had seen combat. He had fought in wars on Earth, in the colonies, and now here in space. He was tough in a way that young soldiers could never understand. Showed the signal, looked at it for a long time. "That is a distress beacon," he said. "Yes," said. "From aliens we do not know," continued. "Yes," said again. "Sat down, and you want to help them." "Someone is dying," said. "We can help. I do not know how we do not help." Smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Good. That means you are a good captain. Bad captains always make the smart choices. Good captains make the right choices." He stood up and looked at the crew. "Get my people ready. We are going to war." The Marines on the Aurora were not soldiers who expected to fight aliens. Most of them were young, between 20 and 30, recruited from cities and towns across North America. They had trained hard, but training was not the same as real combat. Still, they moved when gave orders. Went down to the deploy bay where his 800 Marines were sleeping, eating, or cleaning their weapons. He stood on a platform so everyone could see and hear him. "We have a distress signal from an alien station," he said. His voice was loud and clear. "They are in trouble, big trouble. We are going to go help them. This might get very bad. Some of us might not come back. But we are going to go anyway because that is what soldiers do. That is what humans do. We stand with the people who need us." The Marines listened without talking, could see understanding on their faces. This was different from any mission they had trained for. This was important in a way that training could not prepare for. "Get your gear ready," said. "Get your weapons clean, check your armor, and think about why you came to space in the first place. If you came here because you wanted to make a difference, today is that day." On the bridge, watched the distance to the station get smaller and smaller. The distress signal was getting weaker. They were running out of time. So were the humans. "Captain," said suddenly, "there are ships near the station, 7 of them. They are attacking." There were predators. Everyone knew about them. They had come from the dark places of the galaxy 2 years ago, and everywhere they went, things died. They were violent, cunning, and extremely dangerous. They had destroyed 3 human colonies just for getting in their way. Screw waited for her decision. She knew what it meant to order her people toward the. She knew they might all die. She also knew that the station would definitely be destroyed if humans did not help. Navigation said, "Take us toward the station. I want to arrive in 4 hours, and get ready for a fight." The ship shook again as it pushed even faster. Behind them, Earth was so far away it was not even visible anymore. Ahead of them, the station was burning. Looked at the tactical display and saw that they had not noticed the aurora yet. They were focused on the station. That would change very soon. Stood up from her command chair. She had made a choice that could change everything. She had committed her ship, her crew, and her Marines to a fight that was not theirs to fight. She had done it because someone screamed for help. In the deploy bay, Colonel was putting on his combat armor. It was heavy and strong, built to keep soldiers alive in the worst conditions. He thought about his family back on Earth. His daughter was a doctor. His son was an engineer. They were good people who built things and saved lives. Had chosen to be a soldier. He had chosen to stand between the weak and the predators. Today, he was going to make that choice real in a way that would matter forever. The aurora moved through space like a knife cutting through darkness. Behind it came no reinforcements, no backup, no help at all. Just one old ship with 800 Marines and a captain who refused to turn away. The station was burning ahead of them, calling out to anyone who would listen. And humans had answered. They were coming through the smoke and the darkness and the vast, empty spaces of the galaxy to say something that the universe had not heard in a very long time. "We are here, we will help. You are not alone." The ship saw the aurora coming and did not care. They had fought 1,000 species and destroyed most of them. One small human vessel meant nothing to them. They were wrong, but they would learn that lesson too late. Captain's hands were steady on the armrests of her command chair. The aurora was closing in on the battle station, and they were beginning to notice. Weapons fire started coming toward them, bright bolts of energy that cut through space like burning knives. "Shields to full," said. Her voice was calm, even though her heart was beating very fast. "Return fire on the closest target. Do not hit the station." The aurora's weapons came alive. They were not the most powerful weapons in space, but they were accurate. The first volley struck a frigate, burning through its outer plating. They responded by turning their own weapons toward the human ship. Space around the aurora became a storm of fire. Warning alarms screamed. Crew members held onto their seats as the impacts shook the ship. The shields were taking the hits, but they would not hold forever. Nothing held forever. Lieutenant was running calculations, trying to find a way to position the aurora that would give them the best chance to survive and the best angle to protect the station. It was like trying to solve an impossible puzzle while someone was shooting at you. "Captain," said, his voice tight with concentration, "if we move to a position between thee and the station, we can block their weapons, but they will be able to hit us from multiple angles." "Do it," said, "and keep the weapons hot. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we do not give them time to think." The aurora moved, and the battle became something different. Instead of running away, the human ship was moving directly into the danger. Instead of trying to survive, it was moving to protect. They had never seen a tactic like that before. Two vessels opened fire at point-blank range. The Aurora's shields flared bright with the impact. One section of the hull failed and heard the emergency broadcast start. Hull breach in Section 7. Pressure emergency. Everyone clear the area. The crew moved fast, sealing doors, cutting off the affected sections. 3 people died in Section 7. Felt each death like a punch to her chest. But there was no time to stop and mourn. There was only time to fight. Colonel was in the shuttle bay with his Marines. He could feel the Aurora being hit. He could hear the explosions. Young Private Daniel Cooper, fresh out of training, looked like he was about to be sick. "First time in real combat?" asked him. "Yes, sir," Cooper said. "You are going to be fine," said. "Just stay with your squad leader. Do what they tell you. Stay alive if you can. That is all I ask." The shuttle doors opened. Stood at the entrance looking at the battle ahead. The station was massive, 3 kilometers across, shaped like a wheel with rotating sections. Fires burned inside it. Atmosphere was venting into space. People were dying on that station right now. "Launch the shuttles," said. The shuttles shot out of the Aurora like bullets. They were fast and small, hard to hit. They tried anyway, throwing weapons fire after the human aircraft. 3 of the shuttles took damage, but they all made it toward the station. Lieutenant Commander James Lincoln was piloting the lead shuttle. Lincoln was from Georgia, a career soldier with 10 years of service. He had trained for this, but training and reality were not the same thing. Reality was scarier. Reality had people dying. The station's docking port was not built for human shuttles. Lincoln had to improvise, finding a breach in the hull where the had damaged it. He steered his shuttle through, punching through the damaged section and into the station's atmosphere. The landing was hard but survivable. Lincoln's shuttle settled to the ground inside the station with a sound like thunder. The airlock opened. The first human soldiers to ever set foot on an alien world rushed out into the smoke and fire. Lincoln drew his rifle. The air was thick with smoke from fires. He could barely see 10 meters ahead, but he could hear screaming. People were dying. They were dying. A massive figure appeared through the smoke. Lincoln almost fired before his brain caught up with his eyes. It was a soldier, tall and strange, with armor made of crystal and steel. The alien pointed at Lincoln with one long limb. Lincoln raised his hands to show he was not a threat. He tried to remember the communication protocols they had studied. He activated his translation device and spoke slowly. "We are here to help," he said. "We heard your call for aid. We came to fight with you." They made a sound that might have been anything. It was almost impossible to read an alien's expression when you had never seen one before. But then they lowered its weapon and gestured for Lincoln to follow. More emerged from the smoke. There were maybe 50 of them, all armed, all bleeding, all looking like they had been fighting for a very long time. They looked at the humans with expressions that mixed confusion and hope. "You are small," the tallest said. Its voice was strange, full of frequencies that human ears could barely hear. "You are primitive. You are not supposed to be here." "We heard you screaming," Lincoln said. "That is enough reason to be here." They made that sound again. Maybe it was surprise. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it was something humans would never understand. The sounds of the landing force echoed through the corridors. The aliens were bringing ground troops to the station. They were not just trying to destroy it from space. They were trying to conquer it. They were trying to take the alive. "We need to move," Lincoln said. "Where is your command center?" The tallest gestured upward. "Levels above. They are moving toward them from the other side. If they reach command center, they control the station." "Not if we get there first," Lincoln said. He looked at his squad of Marines, 14 men and women from Earth who had never fought anything except in video simulations. "We are going up. Move fast. Stay alert. And do not shoot only shoot The humans and aliens moved together through the burning corridors. It was strange, humans and fighting side by side. It was also necessary. They did not care about species or culture or honor. They only cared about conquest and domination. On the bridge of the Aurora was making hard decisions. Another ship was moving to attack. Another section of her ship was burning. Her shields were failing. But the shuttles were inside the station, and her people needed time. All weapons on that frigate, ordered, hit it now. The Aurora's weapons blazed. The frigate took heavy damage and broke formation. The other ships were confused now. They had expected this battle to be simple. They had expected humans to run away or die quickly. Instead, the humans were fighting like they had nothing to lose, like they were willing to die to protect strangers. It was a concept they did not understand. And because they did not understand, they began to make mistakes. Lincoln's squad reached the command center level. They could hear moving through the corridor ahead. The battle was about to get very real, very fast. Lincoln looked at his team. These were good people. These were brave people. These were people who had answered a call that was not theirs to answer. "Fix bayonets," he said. "Lock and load. We hold this position or we die trying." The Marines prepared themselves. They stood beside them. And ahead in the smoke and darkness that were coming, they came through the smoke like a wave of death. They were fast and brutal, with weapons that burned through anything they hit. Lincoln's squad opened fire immediately. The human bullets were not as powerful as weapons, but they were accurate and fast. The first soldier fell. It was shocking to Lincoln, the thought that he had actually killed something. An alien, a real alien. Then there was no time for thinking because everything became blood and noise and the desperate need to survive. Sergeant Rachel Murphy was on the left flank. She was from Boston and had joined the Marines because she liked being challenged. She was very challenged now. Murphy fired with cold precision, putting down targets and moving forward instead of backward. Fear had no place in her mind. There was only the mission. There was only the need to hold the line. Private David Hayes was beside her, firing and reloading as fast as he could. A bolt hit his armor and the impact threw him backward. Fire bloomed across his chest. Hayes screamed, but he did not stay down. He got up, fired again, and kept moving. They were starting to realize something. Their weapons were better, but their tactics were not. They expected prey that ran away. They expected enemies that broke and scattered. They did not expect humans who had decided that forward was the only direction that mattered. Lincoln pressed the attack. He had maybe 15 soldiers and they were holding back a force that was twice their size. Impossible, yes, but necessary, so it had to be done. One of the warriors took a hit that burned through its crystalline armor. The creature fell, leaking phosphorescent fluid. It was still alive, still trying to fight, but it was finished. They made a sound that might have been pain or might have been something else. Lincoln made a decision that would later be studied in military academies. He pulled back his people, creating a new defensive position around the wounded warrior. He was using medical supplies. He did not have to keep the alien alive. He was wasting time and resources that were better used for fighting. It was also the exact right thing to do. They saw what the human was doing. They saw that this small creature, this primitive being from a far world, was risking its own life to save a warrior. It changed something in how they thought about humans. "We will hold the medical position," the commander said. Its voice was strange and beautiful and terrible. "You take warriors, you push forward, you drive the back." And humans and charged forward together into the smoke. In the command center, the battle had shifted. They had lost momentum. The human assault had been so fierce, so unexpected, that the commander had ordered a retreat to a more defensible position. It was not normal for to retreat. They had conquered too much to understand defeat. But they were beginning to understand it now. Captain's ship was falling apart. Another hit shook the Aurora. held onto her command chair and did not scream, even though she wanted to. The ship was her responsibility. Every person who died on her ship was her responsibility. "Hull status," she demanded. 12 breaches now, reported. He sounded calm but could hear the fear underneath. "We have lost sections 7, 9, and 14. Life support is holding, but we are losing pressure everywhere." The shields asked. 30% said. "We cannot take many more hits like that." Thought about her crew. She thought about her Marines on the station. She thought about the who were dying. She thought about all the reasons that turning around made sense. She could leave. She could call for help. She could let someone else deal with this. She had never been very good at doing the sensible thing. "Reverse course," said. "Bring us back to that formation. If they are going to kill us, let them do it fast instead of slow." The Aurora turned and accelerated. It was a suicide move. It was also a bluff, had figured out something about They had conquered so much that they had started to believe they could not be beaten. They hesitated when faced with something unexpected. And hesitation was all the humans needed. On the station, Lincoln's team had pushed back to the outer sections. The aliens were regrouping but losing coordination. The humans had captured some of their weapons. Murphy had figured out how to use them and was now laying down fire with a weapon that could cut through armor like it was paper. "Keep pushing," Lincoln ordered. "We control the station now. Do not let them regroup." The commander was making calculations. It was a machine-like process, running numbers and probabilities. The humans were not supposed to be this tough. This species was new to space. They should be falling. They should be dying. They should be broken. Instead, they were winning. The commander ordered the retreat. The decision was made in microseconds, but it was final. The on the station would fall back. The ships would open a jump gate and escape. This battle was lost, but there would be other battles. When the soldiers started moving back, Lincoln did not stop them. He let them go. His job was to protect the station, not to destroy an enemy. They would judge whether that was the right call. Colonel was coordinating the response from the medical sections. He had found the doctor, a being that looked like crystal shaped into the form of something intelligent. The doctor was trying to save everyone, even though many of them were too far gone. Made the hard decisions about who could be saved and who could not. He did this without anger, without judgment. He did this because someone had to, and he was there. The communication system came alive. It was Captain. Her voice was rough, like she had been screaming. "We have them on the run," said. "They are jumping away. They are broken. We held the line." For a long moment there was silence on the station. The humans, the wounded and the dying, they all understood what had just happened. They had won. Against all probability, against all logic, humans and had defeated the. Lincoln found his way to the command center. The commander was there, still alive, still fighting. The alien looked at the human with something that might have been respect. "You are no longer primitive," they said. "You are warriors. You are our brothers." Lincoln nodded, too tired to speak. Around him, his Marines were checking on each other, treating wounds, trying to understand what they had just done. They had fought an enemy from beyond the stars. They had bled together with an alien species. They had won something that the universe said they should not have been able to win. The Aurora was broken and burning, but it was alive. The station was damaged but still standing. They had suffered terrible losses, but their people would survive. And humans, for the first time, had proven that they belonged among the stars. Not because they were the strongest, not because they had the best technology, but because they had refused to turn away from the suffering of strangers. That was something the galaxy had not seen in a very long time. The casualty count came in slowly. Each number was a person. Each number was someone who would never go home again, someone who would never see Earth again, someone whose family would receive a message that would destroy their world. 68 dead, 137 wounded, 17 missing, presumed dead in the sections of the station that had collapsed. Colonel received the numbers without expression. He had seen death before. He had ordered soldiers into situations where death was likely, but knowing numbers and feeling numbers were not the same thing. Went to the medical bay where the surviving Marines were being treated. Some of them looked at him with pride. Some of them looked at him with anger. All of them looked at him with the understanding that their lives had just changed forever. Private Daniel Cooper was there, wrapped in bandages, blood still visible on his face. He had been hit by fire and survived because his armor had held. He had killed 4 before being wounded. He had done what soldiers did. "Colonel," Cooper said when approached him. "How are you feeling?" asked. "Like I just fought aliens," Cooper said. There was no emotion in his voice. Shock, probably, the mind's way of protecting itself. Like I killed them and they killed my friends. Sat down on the edge of the medical bed. "Your friends died fighting for people who were strangers yesterday. That matters. The galaxy will remember that." Cooper did not look convinced. He was 23 years old and had just discovered that his invincibility did not extend to space battles. Sergeant Rachel Murphy had refused medical treatment. She was moving through the station, helping where she could, ignoring the pain that came with every movement. One of the doctors approached her. It was difficult to read expressions, but Murphy had been learning. "You are hurt," they said. "Yes," Murphy said. "You do not seek treatment," they said. "No," Murphy said. "There are others who need help more than I do." They made a sound that might have been approval. "This is honor. This is the way of true warriors." Murphy actually laughed, which hurt. "We do not have a choice. We have to help because no one else is here. That is all it is." But they did not believe that. They believed that humans were something new and strange and wonderful. They believed that humans had chosen to be warriors of the highest order. Captain was in damage control on the Aurora. The ship's main engineering section was a disaster. Fires burned in 3 separate locations. The jump drive was offline. The weapons systems were barely functional. The ship was alive, but barely. Her chief engineer, Captain Frank Dwight, was coordinating repairs with grim determination. "We can get life support stable in 2 hours," he said. "Getting the engines running will take longer, at least 3 days, probably more." Nodded. 3 days was a long time. 3 days was time when anything could happen. But Dwight was a good engineer, and if he said 3 days, it would be done in 3 days. "Do it," said, "and get a full casualty report to me. I need to know everyone we lost." The list was long. Sailors from Toronto, Marines from San Francisco, a doctor from London, an engineer from Seoul. People with names and faces and families. People who would never go home. Went to the memorial room. It was small, just a section of the ship where they kept records of the dead. She stood in front of the wall with her eyes closed. She had sent these people into battle. She had made the choice. That meant the weight of their deaths rested on her shoulders. It was a weight she would carry for the rest of her life. On the station, Colonel was meeting with the High Commander. The alien was ancient, its crystalline exterior marked with bands of color that spoke of centuries of life. The commander looked at with eyes that seemed to contain infinite depth. "Your species," the commander said, "we did not know you existed before this day. You came from the far edges of space. You bled with us, you died for us. Why?" Had been asked this question before, and he had never had a good answer. He tried again. "Because that is what warriors do," he said. "We protect those who need protection. We stand with those who are standing alone. They would have destroyed you. We had the power to stop them, so we stopped them." "But you did not know us," the commander said. "We offered you nothing. We could offer you nothing." Thought about this. Maybe that is why. Maybe helping people is more important when you get nothing in return. Maybe that is when helping people becomes truly brave. The commander was quiet for a long time. There is wisdom in you, small creature, more wisdom than we expected from a species so young." "How young is your species?" asked. "We have been here for 17,000 years," the commander said. "We have seen empires rise and fall. We have learned and we have forgotten and we have learned again, but we have forgotten something. We have forgotten what it means to help another. We have forgotten what it means to be vulnerable. You have reminded us. Your species has reminded us." Nodded. He understood what the commander was saying. They had been so powerful for so long that they had started to think of themselves as gods. Humans, being young and fragile, had reminded them what it meant to be mortal. The Walking Wounded started organizing memorial services. It was a human thing, but some of the joined in. They stood together, human and alien, and they remembered those who had fallen. They said names. They told stories. They wept. Young Private Hayes walked through the memorial service on crutches, his leg wrapped in bandages from the burn. He saw the faces of his friends on the memorial wall. He saw the faces of Marines he had trained with, eaten with, laughed with. "I do not understand," he said to Sergeant Murphy. "Why did we come here? What did it accomplish?" Murphy looked at the memorial wall. "We came because they screamed for help. That is enough reason. That is the only reason that matters." Hours later, stood on the bridge of the Aurora and looked out at the station. It was damaged but still whole. Thousands of would live because humans had answered their call. Families would be together. Children would be born. The galaxy would continue. But 68 humans would not see any of that. 68 humans had paid the price for compassion. Joined on the... They stood together, captain and colonel, and they looked at what they had done. "I have to report this to Earth Command," said. "I have to tell them why we lost 68 people helping aliens." "Tell them the truth," said. "Tell them that humanity just announced itself to the galaxy. Tell them that we showed who we are when no one was forcing us to. Tell them that we are a species worth knowing." Turn to look at. And what if they tell me I made a mistake? What if they say I should have left the to die? Smiled sadly. "Then they are wrong. You made the only choice that means anything. You chose to be human." Aurora limped home over the course of 3 weeks. Every day was different from the last. Every day brought new repairs, new challenges, new moments when the old ship seemed like it would finally break apart. But the crew kept it moving. They kept it alive. They brought it home. On Earth, the news spread like fire. Humans had fought aliens. Humans had won. But more than that, humans had done something that the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. Humans had helped strangers at the cost of their own people. Humans had chosen compassion over self-interest. Cities celebrated. Streets were filled with people holding signs and shouting names. The Marines who had died were heroes. The ship was legendary. Humanity was suddenly something more than it had been before. But in the quiet moments, in the memorial services and the hospitals and the homes where families received letters saying their child would not be coming back, the celebration felt hollow. Sergeant Rachel Murphy stood in her apartment in Boston and looked at the news feeds on her screen. The talking heads were calling her and her squad warriors and defenders and heroes. They were talking about medals and parades. They were talking about everything except the truth, which was that people had died and it hurt. Murphy's left arm was in a cast. Her ribs were wrapped. She had nightmares about the sound that weapons made. She would have those nightmares for the rest of her life. But the news people wanted her to smile. She did not smile. Captain went through the list of the dead again. She had done this 17 times. She knew the numbers. She knew the names. She knew them in a way that other people did not know them. She had sent them to their deaths. The official inquiry cleared her of any wrongdoing. The board of officers said she had made the right decision. They said her actions had saved thousands of lives. They said she was a hero. But knew the truth. She had made a choice, and 68 people had paid for it with their lives. That knowledge would be with her forever. Colonel received his final promotion at a ceremony in front of 10,000 people. They gave him medals and honors and words about his bravery, accepted it all because that was his duty. But his eyes were empty, empty like someone who had seen into the dark places of the universe and could never quite come back. Private Daniel Cooper was discharged from the service with disability pay. He was 24 years old and was finished with combat. He went back to the small town where he had grown up, where nothing had changed except that everything had changed. The people there knew what he had done. They knew he was a hero. Cooper did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had killed other creatures on another world and was trying to understand what that meant. On the station, they had sent an official diplomatic delegation to Earth. It was the first time an alien species had made formal contact with humanity. They brought gifts and words of honor and gratitude. They also brought a message from the High Commander. To the people of Earth, the message said, we have seen your species fight and bleed and die for those who were strangers to you. This is a new thing in the galaxy. We have lived for 17,000 years, and in all that time, we have never seen another species do what you did. We have decided that humanity is worthy of alliance and friendship. We offer you trade agreements, technology, and our hand in the great work of keeping this galaxy safe from predators like the. You have proven that you belong among the stars. We are honored to stand beside you. The message was read in every language on Earth. It was broadcast to every colony, every outpost, every human settlement in space. It was the moment when humanity stopped being a backwater species and started being players in a galactic community. But it did not make feel better about the 68 dead. 3 months after the Aurora arrived home, stood at the memorial wall in the military cemetery. The names were engraved in stone, each one real, each one a person who would never grow old. Lieutenant Commander James Lincoln was there too. Lincoln had received promotion and medals and job offers from every military organization on Earth. He had turned most of them down. Instead, he had volunteered to return to the station as a liaison officer. He wanted to finish what he had started. How many funerals did you attend? Lincoln asked. All of them, said. The ones that had funerals, I was there. Some families could not afford funerals. Some families lived on colony worlds too far away. But the ones I could attend, I did. Lincoln nodded. I attended 17, one for each Marine who died in my squad. Their families wanted to hear about how they died. They wanted to know that it meant something. Did you tell them it meant something? Asked. Lincoln thought about this. I told them the truth. I told them their children or their husbands or their wives died fighting for people they never met. I told them that thousands of alien families would live because of their sacrifice. I told them that the galaxy would remember what their loved ones did. I do not know if that was enough. Turned away from the memorial wall. It probably was not. Nothing is enough when someone is gone, but it was the truth, and they deserved the truth. They sent more diplomatic ships. They opened trade routes. They shared technology. They taught humanity about the galaxy and the dangers that waited there. They had destroyed 3 more human colonies before being stopped by a combined human task force. Humans had died in those battles too. Different humans, but still humans. Still people with families and friends and dreams that would never be fulfilled. The Aurora was retired from service. It was put in a museum where people could look at it and remember. The ship's bridge was preserved exactly as it had been, with command chair and communication station, and all the marks of the battle still visible. Visited the museum once, years after retirement. She stood on the bridge of her old ship and remembered. She remembered the fear and the determination, and the moment when she knew that the only choice that mattered was the human choice. Years later, a young cadet at the military academy was studying the Battle of Station. She read about its decisions and its leadership and the courage of the Marines. She read about 68 people who had died. The cadet asked her instructor why they had done it. Why had humans, a young species, answered the call of an alien they had never met? The instructor answered, because that is what humans do. We answer when people scream for help. We bleed for strangers. We choose compassion over self-interest. That is what makes us human. The cadet did not understand yet. She would understand when she was older, when she had seen what the galaxy could do, when she had made her own choices about who to help and who to ignore. But for now, she wrote down what the instructor said. She wrote down that humans were a species that answered. And in the memorial wall on Earth, and in the memorial halls on worlds, and in the stories that would be told for 10,000 years, the names were remembered. 68 humans who had chosen to help. 68 humans who had announced to the galaxy what their species was made of. 68 humans who had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity.